So ReNeuron is a pure stem cell therapy development company, and we have cell-based technology platforms from which we're developing cell-based therapies addressing areas primarily of very significant unmet medical need. We have a number of programs in play at the moment at a clinical level, addressing conditions such as disability following a stroke, critical limb ischemia, which is a loss of blood flow to the lower limbs, and also back of the eye retinal degeneration, our first target there being a blindness-causing disease known as retinitis pigmentosa. There are a number of unique factors, I think, to what we do. One of the main things is we've strived over many years to try and convert exciting stem cell science into therapies that are actually capable of being commercialised or rolled out to serve very significant patient populations. One of the aspects that means we can achieve that is, for instance, by cryopreserving our cells to give them a much longer shelf life. That's quite a difficult nut to crack in the field, but we've managed to be able to do that, which means we can then manufacture or expand our cells in large quantities, so to do larger batch sizes in terms of manufacturing runs, if you will. And then ship and store those cells so that they can be thawed and used when required. So in other words, it gives us the capability to drive down cost of goods for these therapies, even though they are living cell therapy products at the end of the day. So as I mentioned, we have a number of clinical stage programs at the moment. Probably the most important of those at the current time is the most advanced program, which is a cell-based treatment looking at or trying to address the consequences of stroke, ischemic stroke, which leaves patients, or a large proportion of those patients who survive their stroke with a residual disability. So we have a treatment that's looking to alleviate the effects of that disability, primarily in terms of reducing the motor deficits, the inability to move that typically you see in these patients, and typically down one side of the body. So that treatment's currently in a phase 2 study to examine the efficacy or potential efficacy of that treatment. And those data from that study we're due to garner by the end of this calendar year. So that will be a very significant milestone for the business at a clinical level with that program. Beyond that, we have other programs looking at critical limb ischemia, and that one's in a phase 1 safety study at the moment, but again we'd hope to garner some safety data from that study at the back end of this year, this calendar year. And importantly, we started our first study in the US earlier this year in retinitis pigmentosa. That's a phase 1-2 study, so a combined safety and then efficacy study, and that will take a little longer to read out. We're hoping to garner safety data from that study in the first half of next year, 2017, and then, all being well, efficacy data in the second half of next year. So quite a lot going on. Yeah, we're very excited by the exosome platform, and importantly for us, our CTX cell therapy candidate, which is our lead cell therapy candidate used in stroke, is also a producer cell line for exosomes. So we can harvest exosomes from the process of expanding CTX cells. So essentially we get this for free, if you will. And exosomes are now known to play an important part in cell-to-cell signaling. So what we're trying to do at the moment is harness the potential of those exosomes to signal to neighbouring cells to do various things that ultimately we hope will engender repair in patients. So we've, having managed to harvest exosomes, we're now characterising, and indeed we've selected our first exosome therapy candidate called ExoPro, and we've also selected our first clinical target for that product or that candidate, which is glioblastoma or brain cancer. And all being well, we'll be looking to take our first exosome nanomedicine candidate into a first clinical trial in man during the course of 2017. So an exciting new platform for us, and something, again, where we're very much pioneering the work at a preclinical and hopefully a clinical level. Well, as I mentioned, probably the most important near-term milestone will be the phase 2 data in our stroke clinical study at the back end of this year, 2016. As we go through next year, we'll be garnering data, both safety and efficacy, from our retinal study, the phase 1-2 study currently running in the States in retinitis pigmentosa. And beyond that, hopefully we'll go on to readouts from our first exosome clinical trial as well, if we can start that study during the course of next year. And our limb ischemia program, which is in a phase 1 study, that will again read out this year and hopefully lead us into a phase 2 study next year. So a lot going on and a lot to be excited about.